Well, the moment of truth for the finale portion of the game is about to await us. Hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, I am the one and only Pac-Man here, and I am back for yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom for those of you who lived in Japan, and for the Game Boy Advance as well. So, last time we have basically managed to able to complete the last palace in the game before this particular upcoming final thing where we get into in a moment. That we actually did manage to explore into Turtle Rock, and also we've managed to able to rescue Princess Zelda from the sake of the forms of that final crystal that we've obtained. So today, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually going to be the grand finale of this Let's Play, and because of that, we're going to be taking on the forms of the final thing throughout the game, not what appears to be, but the forms of Ganon's Tower. So, yeah, we're actually getting towards the end of this game, folks, and especially noticeable about the fact that, well, potentially speaking, once we're done with the actual Ganon's Tower, then we are basically managed able to complete it, the second Zelda Let's Play, basically. So even then though, yeah, let's hop into this, shall we? So in this case, here we are onto, like I said, Ganon's Tower, in this case the final, palace or the final dungeon in the game, so to be expected it might be a little bit difficult than the forms of how it does it on the previous dungeons, but I'm sure enough that we'll get the gist of it. So yeah, and also with that we actually access to the forms of every single items that like we've already noticed from the start, but there is actually that one last true item that we can definitely get. But that appears to be happens at the very end of this particular dungeon. Well, sort of ish. Oh god, we have ourselves Floor Masters again. I think the last time we actually see the actual Floor Masters was actually by the forms of in Skull Warts, as far as I'm presuming so. But then again though, it has been about 2 days ago since I actually did manage to last touch this, because well, it's pretty obvious that I need to be able to get this game finished before we move on to the next set of Let's Plays for that matter. So as a result though, today's day is of course the, I think today is the 25th of February today, in this case in 2022 today. I believe we've only got about four? No wait, is it 4? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 4 days left until we move on to the next month, which is March. So, and by that time, until that time, that Kirby and the Forgotten Land will be expecting to be releasing next month. So, yeah, I'm really still excited about that, especially noticeable about the fact that, wow, I'm sure that most other toys were able to mention about that stuff until likely in the later portion throughout the whole year. So in this case though, is the fact that we'll just have to save it for later, so anyway, so let's go ahead and, oh god, there's another one of those, lit up the lanterns puzzle kind of syndrome again, but, it seems that I keep on getting hit by those stupid fireball attack, which, I know it sounds a little bit inconsistent with that particular obstacle, with all that, you know, random fireball obstacle. They just managed to able to throw me off a bit, but regardless of such though, we'll try to cope with it, I'm presuming so. Which, to be expected, it is the final dungeon in the game, so to be expected things to be a little bit more more difficult than the forms of how it does it on any other dungeons for that matter, so to be expected. So oh jeez, I'm always having a hard time trying to deal with those stupid jellyfish monsters, which I have no idea what these creatures are, to be more specific, because I know for the fact it has been, I don't know, quite a while since we actually come across into those creatures, ever since in the past few dungeons ago, but we're just trying to able to stick with the forms of keep on getting hit most of the time, so anyways, I'm also able to use one of my fairies for a bit, although don't worry, we will come across into another one of those fairies somewhere in the entire portion of the dungeon itself. So anyway, let's just go back down there, and I think we'll try to able to lit up those lanterns, so just in case we can able to progress, so while we try to able to dodge that particular spiky object that we definitely need to avoid at all costs. So anyway, let's just shove that in there, and then start able to actually lit up those lanterns here, while at the same time trying to actually avoid the Floor Master, and trying to go here, and then try to lit up this one, and try to avoid those spikes. And of course there's another set of... Oh god, that was really close. And that way we'll open up the next room, which I'm pretty sure is going to be filled to the brim with those mummy enemies, and also we got to rely on the actual switch. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to be represented for, but I will give it a go. If not, then I'll try a different room. So just to see what really happens until we get some point or another. So anyways, let's use the bomb here so we can able to toss it into that conveyor belt, although it doesn't seem that it's not gonna let me activate the switch or something like that, which oh jeez, I honestly have no words to do right here. Well, let me just give this another go. Ah, so close. I was expecting if that's gonna blow up, but actually, I just found out something, is the fact that, I think if I somehow progress to this room, despite the fact that I might actually have a lot of struggles on that room, I think all we can get for this point is that, it's just, the actual compass and all the other items, and that's pretty much about it. So, I'm gonna do this my own way, because differently from any other dungeons for that matter, that normally I was gonna able to try to find the map or the compass, but I've decided not to, because I'm actually gonna be able to do my own technique by doing all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, the right room is considerably pointless, so that's why I attempt to able to ignore that room entirely though, for certain rooms and stuff. So instead of that, I'm gonna go into the left room for the majority of the playthrough, or specifically for this run-through of Ganon's tower. So, anyways, let's go use the magic hammer to smack those little things, whatever they're called. But I do definitely know that, well, it seems pretty obvious that I've already mentioned about this loads of times, that those things will make a comeback for the sake of The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS. So I might consider trying to do that Let's Play at some point in the future though, but honestly though, is the fact that I've got all kinds of Zelda Let's Plays I'm going to be focusing on later on throughout the majority of the channel. Mind you, a few exceptions mind you, which are Zelda Triforce Heroes, and also Four Swords on the Game Boy Advance most likely, because it actually requires multiplayer. So in this case though, I'm not exactly sure if I'm ready for those. So anyway, so let's go ahead and use the bomb to you know, detonate that particular switch, so just in case we can able to get some of our progressioning. So in this case though, we did somehow progress through here. I was a little bit worried for this point today, because I was a little bit anxious about the fact that I was gonna lose my save documentaries for the sake of the forms of our video editing skills for that matter, but luckily though, I somehow still saved some of it though. Especially noticeable about the fact that I somehow accidentally updated the new version for Roxo Game Capture HD Pro, or specifically Roxo Video Wave program. So, but luckily though, every single videos I have is not lost. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of a good thing. Especially noticeable that hopefully I'll get back onto the forms of Wario Land 4 once I've done with this game in particular. So, anyway, so let's go for these little teleportating warp pads. And there's actually a trick to this though, that if you somehow managed able to go in here and get hit by those enemies right here, if I can show this to you, if that makes things a bit quicker. As you can see, I managed to bypass that particular warp pad, so that way I don't usually get confused or lost on that particular maze labyrinth. And there's also another shortcut, like you probably already noticed about the fact that with that, the Pegasus shoes bashing into certain things. Well, there's another one that says on here, so that way you can able to back up a little bit, and that way you can able to do a lot of shortcuts, so that way you don't have to worry about the forms of frustrations here and there. Although, unlike the Game Boy Advance version of this particular sequence, I'm pretty sure that particular trick will not work. So, I'm guessing it's mainly because they just somehow managed to fix a lot of, like, problems. That's what the original version had, which I absolutely have no idea why they attempt to fix it. But, oh well though, at least it usually happens sometimes. Alright, so we'll just use the bomb to able to explode that cracked floor down there, so that way we can able to progress. And every once in a while though, we stumble across one of those familiar boss fights from the first 3 palaces, which there are almost night ever since in the Eastern Palace. So yeah, that was the last time we actually faced off these guys. And basically same weakness as before, except now that we actually got ourselves the upgraded sword. So this means that few amounts of hits to deal the damage with these guys shouldn't be that much of an issue, I think. So in this case though, these guys are easily being taken down now, thanks to, you know what I mean, upgraded weapons and all that stuff. So that should be a welcoming surprise for the sake of time. So anyways, let's go ahead and do some last few swipes on there. If I somehow get a hit on him, there we go. And that way, we need to head on to the north, and then basically though, we're able to get not 1, but 3 treasure chests, which one of them contains bombs and arrows, and most importantly, the big key. And it's a good thing we've got the big key, because I believe later on, there will gonna be the big chest that we can able to open up. So it might be easily be skippable if you somehow accidentally ignore it. And by the way, if you go in here while you simply manage to bash into it with the Pegasus shoes, this way you can get yourselves the fairy fountain. So in this case though, we'll just simply catch one just in case if we do have every single fairies in each bottle. So I think we should be all set and done. Especially noticeable about the fact that if I somehow keep on getting hit a lot, basically though, I can just simply try to able to refuel my health just in case if I get hit multiple times. So anyways, let's shove this block and... oh jeez, I keep on getting poked. And that way we get ourselves the red mail. This provides the way that we've now got our strong defense. So in this case though, that we are now fully strong enough for the sake of the forms of certain things now. So pretty awesome, I have to say. So now we're done with the left side of the actual tower, so now we'll move on to the actual floor-to-floor progressioning, where it goes to like all the way up to the top, basically. So, and that's what we're going to be doing with for the last few portions of this entire Ganon tower. So, but I digress. But as far as I'm aware, that much like in Zelda 1, it has a lot of floors to go to. But thankfully though, unlike in Zelda 1, that I found that particular final dungeon to be kind of confusing, especially noticeable you have to deal with the forms of, not only for the sake of the forms of a lot of dead ends, but also some of these wrist rows that are just trying to ambush you like a lot of times. It's like, I suggest you're able to actually get yourselves the actual, the real map of the actual, you know, the final dungeon in Zelda 1, because I highly suggest you look it up on a guide or a map, so just in case you don't get yourselves confused or lost. So, but thankfully though, this game does have a map, so in this case though, it can easily give you a bit of easy tracking of which specific doors you go to. So, at least I can able to recommend it, so. And I just realized I do need to shove the block on the very top, so, but here's the thing, I'm also able to keep on getting hit by those spikes, so I guess we'll find our way to make our way there. But unlike in Link's Awakening, along with the Oracle of Ages or the Oracle games on the Game Boy Color, that basically though, I think there is actually a the actual Rock's Feather that that allows you to able to jump. So yeah, at least that's the helpful item you can have if you somehow manage to stumble across some very difficult platforming segments. So specifically though, whenever we get into Link's Awakening, well, again, we'll point it out whenever we get towards the very end of this Let's Play, basically. So I'm probably not going to spoil this just yet though, because, well, as I said, that we're actually getting really dang close towards the end of this game, so we just only got the last dungeon such as this, and of course, the final battle coming up, so. Anyway, so, and as you can tell, that since we actually get hit quite a few enemies sometimes, including Beanos, that basically though, that our health doesn't go drastically down, so it's more accurately like a high defense I've got, so that will be a handy, item to have, especially noticeable if you find a game a bit tough for you, then good news, you can able to actually just to get the red mole on this particular dungeon itself. Alright, so it looks like that we've almost there. It's just the fact that sometimes the actual length for this particular dungeon sometimes can be felt a bit too lengthy, but regardless of such though, as long as you would get the hang of it though, it might not be so bad, assuming if you're able to ignore some important items such as of course the compass and as well as the dungeon map, but if you look on this video right about now, then you know exactly where you go, especially depending if you either get this on well, assuming if you're able to actually still get it on the Wii back in the day, even though it's no longer available anymore because of the Wii Shop channel's closure, but also the Wii U and also the new 3DS version most likely, because obviously the new 3DS does have the ability to play Super Nintendo games on the new 3DS system, so at least that's that. And there's also the Switch Online Membership Services version, and finally, the SNES Classic Mini, and even the Game Boy Advance remake, although, mind you, that you can't do certain shortcuts on the Game Boy Advance version, unlike the Super Nintendo version, so keep that in mind. Alright, so we're on the 4th floor right now, and this place is going to be filled to the brim with a lot of enemies that we have to try to get rid of, so yeah, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on it, so... But, hopefully it doesn't bother me too much about it though, because after all, I've got my high defense, so it doesn't worry me too much about it. Well, despite the fact that I somehow died quite a few times throughout the game so far, at least thankfully though, that I don't come across into as many of those game over screens by this point. Especially noticeable because, unlike whenever I managed to play the Wii Virtual Console version of the game, that I somehow stumbled across a lot of game overs back in the day. But the more I play it, the more comfortable I can become, so yeah, I've honestly have no words to able to actually just realize about that, so... Oh jeez, so many spikes. It's almost like Mega Man 4 when it comes to likely having too much spikes all over the place. But hopefully we'll try to... Oh god. So many Beanos! But at the very least, thankfully, with the actual, the mirror shield, that basically not only does it protect you from fireballs, but also protects you from certain lasers. So, at least you don't have to worry about the forms of those projectiles, assuming if you're able to block them, just, you know, coming straight towards you. So, this very slippery ice physics, I hate that section sometimes. Especially noticeable that just like in the ice powers, that sometimes the actual the movement is a bit slippy most of the time, but thankfully we've managed to pass that. So let's just move on to another familiar boss fight from the likes of ever since in Desert Powers, which appears to be Lan Manas. So yeah, once again we have to take down 3 of these again, except now that there's that annoying fireball projectile just managed able to throw you off. So yeah, that could be rather amusing sometimes, especially when, you know, fireballs are easily just kind of feels annoying to me, honestly, to deal with. But thankfully, we deal with the first 2 here, as well as this last one on there, so we can able to progress. So, in fact, by that point, that particular boss fight is actually a lot easier now than the likes of how it does it on the first time around, because obviously with your sword upgrade that you can able to instantly KO those enemies or those bosses very easily, so... Oh gosh, we have the equivalents to those Wizros, which I think they're more likely like a skull-based versions of those Wizros enemies, so they basically behave exactly the same. Although, there's actually that technique you can able to do when it comes to Cane of Soria. Basically though, if you're trying to press the Y button twice, not only does it able to create the block like we used to ever since in Dungeon 6 or Dungeon 7 if you will, but also get this, is the fact that I just need able to see what's in the path, because obviously I don't want to able to get another death right here. So, and also it actually creates not one, but I would say for about 4 projectiles just managed to shoot somehow across. So yeah, that seems like a very handy item, especially noticeable if you get crowded by certain enemy encounters and stuff like that, which honestly you should definitely recommend doing it. So I think we've almost nearly at the end. It's just the fact that we've still got some serious amount of rooms to go to. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get rid of that enemy over there. And grab that, heart. And I wonder what's, across through here. Oh god, some more enemy encounters. And, of course, we got some more, lanterns to light up. So, again, it's a bit lengthy though, but assuming if you get the hang of it though, it might not be so bad. So, especially that, you know, you have a much more better map than you forms of how it does it on the first game. So, which is very understandable. Wow, I can't really tell about the fact that if I was trying to able to experience the final palace in Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link, I've heard it's gargantuan, and it's gonna be like filled to the brim with those enemies, and so many obstacles that instantly kills you, and then so many ways to die. So because of that though, yeah, I'm not exactly sure of when I'm about to do Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link yet, because, well, I still haven't completed the game yet, especially noticeable how ridiculously hard that game can be, which, it might be seems true for most people out there. Alright, so we got another Latin section going on here, which we still need to use the fire rod in order to progress, so... Oh god, we have a falling, tiles of death. Okay, there we go. Thankfully, we've managed to accomplish that for a quicker amount of time, so... And now that, we need to get another key, which... By that time, we actually got about 3 keys so far, so yeah, that seems pretty insane if you ask me. Especially that, you know, we're actually getting pretty close, so yeah, I honestly have no words, so... Alright, so I think we're almost there, so... Okay, so we need to use the bomb for this part, and because of that though, once again we have to rely on the conveyor belt while, you know what I mean, with the bomb tossing thing. But in fact, it's actually way easier to do than the forms of how it does it on the other room. So, yeah, I can at least appreciate that. So, yeah, let's grab another fairy just in case if I don't, die quite a few times. So, I don't think there's any point we can able to do in this room because obviously that particular... Although there's actually a thing that has managed to block it off, but we'll skip that for now. Oh god, not you again. Oh boy, this is the second time we're gonna be faced off against with Maoldalorn, which thankfully though is actually... Although, despite the fact that he will still knock you off, but thankfully, I managed to deal with him within 3 sword arm sweeps. And once you're done with him, then basically though we can move on. So, but I get the feeling if you dare fall off the arena again, much like the forms of how it does it on Tower of Here, basically though that you have to start all over for this entire boss fight again. And I believe you go down even way further, I think, but despite the fact that I haven't exactly known about the actual map of this particular dungeon throughout, so... Oh jeez, some more bumpers as well as more spikes. Oh jeez, I think this room might actually be a lot difficult than I expected, but... Hopefully though, with the power of those Pegasus shoes, then we can instantly go upstairs, and sure enough, we reach to the 7th floor, and this is our way to the final battle. Well, most likely the final encounter with the forms of you know, with that main wizard, villain. But, either way though, before we, start the battle, we need to, regenerate our health for a bit, which we've already did, and take on this guy again. Ho ho ho, it's great that you could come all the way here, Pac-Man. I'm very happy to see you again, but you better believe that we will not have a third meeting prepared to meet your doom. So here we go, here we have the forms of the second encounter with the forms of Akkaram, once again, except the fact that this entire boss fight is actually a lot easier than the forms of how it does it on the first encounter with him, because as you can see that he's managed to able to use double team, I guess, because as a result though, he somehow split into 3 versions of himself. Like 2 of them are basically fake, and you have to find the real one, which is basically, it's like pure pure color, I guess, but even though it's hard to explain. And basically the exact same strategy will stay in place to this boss fight right here, so you have to always have to rely on the actual light ball thing, and if you deal with enough hits on him... Oh snap! There's Ganon! And he somehow turned into a bat, apparently. But anyway, I think that pretty much takes care of that particular Omega Wizard now. So all we have to do is just basically we need to take down this one last threat, which appears to be Ganon himself, ever since in the first Zelda game. And he somehow goes down here apparently, so... But in this case though, yeah, there is actually a cracked wall that we can now actually entering into. But before we get into this though, there are quite a few things I forgot to mention about. On the Game Boy Advance version, specifically if you get to this point right here, there's actually another hole that appears to be on the right side of this particular pyramid. And I believe this allows you to able to access to an exclusive dungeon if you only play the Game Boy Advance version, which, it's pretty much, it's like, the Four Swords, temple, or specifically, powers of the Four Sword. And basically, though, that the only boss you're able to deal with on that particular dungeon is Dark Links. And I think you have to deal with all four of them entirely. So, in this case, though, that's something I totally forgot to mention about, ever since in the past few parts of this Let's Play. So... Anyway, so before we deal with the final encounter against with Ganon, we need to able to take care of this one last thing, and that's what appears to be, what else? Final upgrading stuff. To be more specifically for both sword and arrow, because, well, as far as I'm aware, despite the fact that it might actually felt a bit cosmetic when it comes to upgrading your sword and stuff like that, but as far as arrows goes, well, you remember the defaults of how it does it on the first game? Specifically, if you try to face off with Ganon on The Legend of Zelda, basically though, you know the items called silver arrows? That item is mandatory in order to able to finish the first Zelda 1. And basically though, if you don't have the silver arrows with you, you can't win. So basically though, the only way you can finish Ganon off is by simply you have to use the silver arrow. However, this will be applied in here as well. But in order to able to get to that though, as you can see, we stumbled across a super bomb. And we have to pay like 100 rupees in order to buy that. So, and what can we do with it? Well, basically you notice on the far left on that particular pyramid section that as you saw for about a few minutes ago, basically though there was a cracked wall, and in order able to blow that up, I don't think the regular bombs can do anything, but unlike the super bomb that we actually only got one of them, we're able to actually blow that wall up. But first of all though, we need to make our way towards the actual cracked wall. I highly recommend you do not use the actual Pegasus shoes onto this part, because if you accidentally press the A button, you somehow managed able to accidentally activate the bomb timer. So, something to keep that in mind. So... And I believe, luckily enough though, unlike one of those monkey companions, for the sake of the forms of in the first dungeon on the Dark World, that thankfully if you get hit, that you lose one of your monkey companion in order to progress. But at least even then though, that's, well, you still keep a bomb with you. So, oh god, almost gonna get myself hit from that massive explosion. But anyways, as soon as you're able to blow that wall up, we'll end up within the mysterious pond again. Except now, let's go ahead and toss the bow and arrow together. And that way, we're able to actually get something that is mandatory if you finish the game. So, oh god, this fairy is a lot different than the others. Yes. You are an honest person. I like you. I will give you something important. These are the silver arrows to give Ganon to his last moment. You definitely need them. I know I don't quite have the figure of the fairy. Ganon's cruel power is to blame. You must defeat Ganon. So as you can see, we've now actually access to the silver arrow, and again, it's mandatory if you finish the game. But if you don't have that, then obviously that battle is unbeatable, unless that thankfully, unlike in Zelda 1, that basically though in Zelda 1, that you basically gonna be stuck, that you're essentially gonna be locked in the actual room entirely. Thankfully though, there's a way you can able to actually get the silver arrows in any moment. So, anyways, as you can see, we actually ended up dropping the actual third upgrade of the sword. So in this case, we've now actually got the sword upgrade number 4. So in this case though, your sword is stronger and you can feel its power fumbling in your hands. So basically, our Master Sword is now even much more powerful than before, so we can expect that we can able to actually just take down as many of those enemies on the strongest method as I could. I'm not exactly sure what's in that hole over there, mind you, because it's been a long while since I actually explored this particular area, because the only time we only go into in this place is obviously obtain a piece of heart, and also that we ended up going way up and higher up. And can you go back here please, Fairy? Fairy, don't go! I need you! I need you for this entire last battle against with Ganon! I need you! Okay, thank you. Well, despite the fact that I was off by 1 heart left and not able to actually access the sword beam, but I'll be alright with this. So, anyways, let's begin the final boss in The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which is Ganon. I never imagined a boy like you could give me so much trouble. It's unbelievable that you defeated my alter ego, Arrogant, the Dark Wizard, twice. But I will never give you the Triforce. I will destroy you and make my wish to conquer both light and dark worlds come true without delay. So here we go, there's the final boss, like I said, which appears to be Ganon himself. And as I said, in order able to deal with him for real is the fact that, you know, the silver arrows that I've managed to keep on collecting. Well, basically, that's, well, it wasn't until whatever we get to later on in the battle though, because basically in this first part, it's pretty simple. Basically, you just have to able to keep on using sword swings on him though, and that way it'll deal the damage. And speaking of damage though, speaking of such, his fireball attacks do massive amount of damage on my part. Even especially noticeable, you have to be very careful of those vampire bats, or these fire bats potentially, because that also just managed to swipe your health up. So yeah, this is more likely one of the harder fights in the game, which to be expected because this is the final battle of course. Eventually, sometimes though, Ganon really loves to able to teleport onto certain places throughout. So, and also, as you notice, that we actually got ourselves a massive wall on the sides of a wall. And basically, if you fell into one of them, you get kicked out of the battle, and you have to do the entire battle all over again with all these health restored, just like in the third dungeon. So, you're doing well, lad, but can you break through this secret technique of darkness? On guard. So yeah, every now and then, we're now on to the second and the final phase. So as you can see, he starts turning blue every time you hit him. And basically, that's your chance that you can able to actually use the silver arrow in order to deal the damage on him. So basically, I think it's roughly about 4 silver arrows in order to deal with him. So, although eventually the room starts to get darker as soon as you're able to actually keep missing these shots on him. So, yeah, it's definitely one of the hardest fights in the game, just because you have to rely on new forms of not only trying to dodge a lot of things, but also have to rely on the silver arrow in order to able to deal the amount of damage to Ganon. So, but if you get enough hits on them though, it won't be so bad, but it's just the fact that it can be pretty tough. And there goes my another death, but that's okay, because obviously I've already got so many fairies on one of my bottles, so in this case though, we should able to revive ourselves, so we can resume the battle as always. So, and I think we only got on to one last hit, and he is done. He's toast. So yeah, after this battle's done, well, we can now able to actually see the ending of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and hopefully we should able to restore the peace of the land once again. So, yeah, that was actually a pretty cool way to able to actually know something like that. So, anyways, so let's meet up with not 1, but 3 pieces of the Triforce. Welcome, Pac-Man. I am the essence of the Triforce. the Triforce will grant the wishes in the heart and mind of the person who touches it. If a person with a good heart touches it, it will make his good wishes come true. If an evil-hearted person touches it, it grants his evil wishes. The stronger the wish, the more powerful the Triforce's expression of that wish, I should say. Ganon's wish was to conquer the world. That wish changed the Golden Land to the Dark World. Ganon was building up his power here so he could conquer the Light World and make his wish come completely true. But now you have totally destroyed Ganon. His Dark World will vanish. The Triforce is waiting for a new owner. Its golden power is in your hands. Now, touch it with a wish in your heart. So there, looks like the Triforce is now full up, or in this case connected, so that means we can restore the balance of good nature, I suppose. But, and also every single citizen, including the king of Hyrule Castle, is somehow back to life, apparently. And also every single people is now back to its normal form, and everything else is fully restored. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. For the sake of the forms of the entire ending to the likes of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. So yeah, and then basically, before we get into the credit sequence though, it basically shows every single people around in every single locations of not just only the Light World, but also the Dark World variation. Although, I'm pretty sure enough though, I'm presuming that, well, it's hard to explain, because I know for the fact that it has been quite a long time since I actually did manage to able to research on the forms of A Link to the Past story itself, which I do apologize for that. But regardless of everything else though, yeah, everything else is fully restored at peace. And of course my uncle is recovered after this death from the very beginning of the game. And also some Zors in the waterfall, so yeah, I guess there's not much else to say about this, honestly. It's just all about... It kind of reminds me like a cast's role from certain games in the Super Nintendo wise. Like I know for the fact that on Super Mario World, that basically though, we get ourselves the staff credits, and after that we got an enemy roll call. Whilst in here though, instead of able to actually show us the credit sequence first, instead it actually shows every single townspeople credits roll. And basically after that though, I'm presuming the next shot will actually going to be focused on, although that's, well, it's hard to explain because I do apologize for my commentary at the end. Gets a bit tad awkward. Well, I've already mentioned about the actual, the dungeon itself, in this case, Ganon's Tower. It's actually not too bad of the actual, the final conclusion on certain dungeons, but it might be a bit lengthy and also kind of tough as well. At least assuming if you don't go into the left room or the left door first and just head on straight into the right door. But I was able to, well, do it my own fashion way, so anywho though, so yeah, that was pretty much about it in terms of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. At least ever since then, that this game was still likely 30 years old. Does this game still holds up, even through after 30 years of its release? I think this game is brilliant, and I think it was certainly a lot better than the first game in my opinion. Well, I'll get into more details about that as soon as whenever we get into the staff credit sequence of this entire game. So basically though, it shows us the old man crossing the bridge, on Death Mountain, and also the Lost Woods in the Forest Thief. And I believe after that scene is finished, then it'll show us the last scene, which basically though, that the Master Sword is now sleeps again, forever. So that means no threat or anything, so at least until whenever we get into other Zelda games in the future for certain Let's Plays department, so... But there we go, that was it basically, so and after that scene is finished, then we'll cut straight into the credits, with all three of those pieces of the Triforce are usually keep spinning, so, you know, just like in a title screen, so... Which, as far as I'm aware, that the Triforce are actually represented from within three different attributes. The top one is basically the Triforce of Power, and the one on the bottom left is the Triforce of Wisdom, and the third one on the bottom right represents the Triforce of Courage. So, that might be something worth noting for the sake of this description, for those who have not seen any other Zelda Let's Plays, but I'm sure enough you get the gist of it. So, anyways, my final thoughts of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. As I said, this game is amazing. Like, certainly a lot better than the first game in my opinion, just because, thank God, no archaic design choices. But, usually, let's start with the forms of the story. I think, personally, the storytelling in this game looks amazing. Especially noticeable, it's actually get a lot more involvement this time around, I'm presuming so. And also, the gameplay looks amazing too, even though it feels very similar to the Zelda 1, except much, much better. Like, for instance, for example, the actual, you have more buttons to work with, as opposed to limitations on certain buttons on the first game. And also, I found the dungeons in this game a lot of fun to travel through, except in, let's just say in Ice Palace, because Ice Palace is pretty much gonna be like a hellish palace to go through. But apart from that, all that stuff though, and also the combat is pretty fluid as well, and the graphics, oh man, this is one of the best looking games on the Super Nintendo, at least from my experience anyway. The soundtrack is iconic as well, and the controls, super perfection, and finally, the most important thing out of them all though, I think this game is certainly more recommended for those Zelda fans out there. Especially noticeable if you ever get this on the original Super Nintendo cartridge version. Sadly, you can't still get it on the Wii Virtual Console anymore, just because the Wii Shop channel is closed forever, so that seems kinda sucks. But, luckily though, you can still get the game on the Wii U, for the Virtual Console re-release, I'm presuming so. And also on top of that, the new 3DS, and what else is there? Oh yeah, the Switch Online membership service, assuming you're able to actually access the online subscription for it, and the Game Boy Advance port, which is basically the exactly same game as in the Super Nintendo version, aside from screen crunch. And of course, for what I've noticed is the fact that, well, I've already mentioned about this ever since the, whenever we went through the actual Ice Palace throughout. So, in this case though, it's the fact that, well, relatively speaking, that's just what I can honestly try to say. And, also, in addition to able to actually have an exclusive, you know what I mean, the dungeon, which is of course the Palace of Four Swords, and also a bonus game, which is of course the Legend of Zelda 4 Swords, which you do need to require the Game Boy Advance cable link, which I don't usually actually access to. But regardless of such though, the Game Boy Advance remake, or should I say, the Game Boy Advance port, is actually not too shabby either, even though the only thing I don't like about that version though is the fact that Link's voice on that version is so annoying and repetitive. Which, because obviously, whenever he uses the sword and all that stuff though, he keeps like going like, yeah, every time, and that just gets really annoying. But I digress, this is certainly a must-have Super Nintendo game, which you still must as well get it, and as a result though, I hope you guys do enjoy this Let's Play, which, for me though, I enjoyed this Let's Play, even though I do have some bit of frustrations here and there, most notably with all these crowded enemies and certain boss fights that did tend to tick me off a bit. But apart from those side things though, this is certainly a must-have for a Zelda collection. So yeah, this is me, Pac-Man. from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And I suppose next up in terms of our Zelda games retrospective of Let's Plays, I think next up we'll do is The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, specifically the Game Boy Color re-release of the game called Link's Awakening DX. Now I promise you guys I won't get onto the Switch version until next year, but for now the Game Boy Color version is up next, so see you guys then, bye.